So I get a lot of letters from people every week asking me questions, saying thank you for the work that I do. And recently I've been getting quite the influx of letters that ask me for advice and whether or not I think they need a reading. And some of the messages I've been getting from people are so poignant and so interesting, and they're questions that I hear so frequently when I do tarot readings that I thought it would be worthwhile to discuss some of the topics that people bring up to me when they message me here on the internet. So we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to read to you guys some of the letters that I've received. Most of you don't see my face very often. Hi, I'm Carrie Lee. I am Soma Chandra Tarot and Soma Chandra Wellness in Human Design. I've been reading the tarot for almost 30 years. I'm a certified master Reiki practitioner and a human design analyst. And I see myself as a facilitator for self-discovery. And my main goal here on YouTube and with my spiritual work is to, one, create a platform for your self-discovery, but also I have kind of a secret mission, which is to bridge what appears to be this giant gap between spirituality and reality. And one of the mistakes I see a lot of people make when they go down what they call a spiritual journey, or in particular when they discover tarot, is they kind of do quite a bit of spiritual bypassing, where they use spiritual ideas and ideology and concepts to separate them from reality. And spirituality isn't supposed to do this. This is a human-created construct that helps us explain our relationship with everything around us and with each other and with ourselves and with the divine. But I don't think that spirituality and spiritual concepts are supposed to confuse us and keep us separated from ourselves and what's good for us. I think if spirit wants anything for us, it wants us to stay grounded in our present moment while also staying future focused and to be very realistic and very practical. And when we start using spirituality as a way to bypass a reality that we're uncomfortable with, or our spiritual practices and what we believe start to confuse us, it's no longer constructive and healthy. And a lot of the questions that people ask me in private readings, and the questions I'm asked when people send me messages like, do you think I need a reading about this, Soma Chandra? Or what do you think's happening here? Is this spirit intervening, or is this my own brain playing tricks on me? What do you think? When I get those questions, I see that it's an opportunity to really highlight and look at how we can use what we believe and these tools, like all these tarot cards here behind me. Can we allow spirit to show us something that's realistic and true about ourselves? Or do we want to cling to these ideas and concepts and these messages that we hear coming through myself and other tarot readers to help fill our heads with nonsense? I don't want to fill anybody's head with nonsense. I'm here to provoke people into a state of complete awareness. So when I get these questions, I really want to make sure I'm doing that. And recently I've gotten some letters that I just thought had some ideas and questions in them that deserve to be discussed on a broader platform. So I've reached out to 5 people actually, that sent me letters and said, I really appreciate you sending me this message. I really appreciate these questions. These are questions that you're not alone in your curiosity about. I have a lot of people that ask me these very questions on almost a daily basis when I do private readings. How do you feel about me reading your letter here on YouTube and sharing it with everyone? But I'll change your name and I'll protect your privacy and I'll answer your questions that way. Because I feel like you're not the only person that needs an answer to your particular question. And the people that I've reached out to and said, hey, do you mind if I do this? Can I read your letter live on YouTube? They were like, absolutely. If you think it's going to help other people. I do think it's going to help other people. So I'm going to try to do this once or twice a week. We'll see how it goes. So I received a letter from a woman that we're going to call Andrea. That's not her real name. I want to protect her privacy. And I've typed out the letter, or I've printed out the letter, and I've made some notes here, and I've highlighted some things. And I'm going to share her message with you, and then I'm going to share my feedback with Andrea and with all of you. Please know that my feedback is based on my subjective opinion. You do not have to agree with me if you don't want to. Andrea has asked me specifically these questions, so she's inviting me to respond to her. And I'm a manifesting generator. That's my human design. So I wait to respond to people that seek my guidance. My role in society is also the role model hermit. So I allow others to observe me, and they can either choose to model their behavior after mine or not. And they can seek me out for wisdom if they think I have wisdom to share. So Andrea thought I had wisdom to share with her. So I'm going to be true to my design, and I'm also going to be a Libra here and give her my honest feedback and my opinion that's subjective, but I think linked to a more universal truth. So this is what Andrea has to say. She's asking questions very much about synchronicities and what I think they mean. These are questions I get asked frequently. That's why I thought it would be worth reading Andrea's letter to all of you and sharing it. She says, "Dear Soma Chandra, I was wondering if you could answer a personal question for me and give me your thoughts on whether or not I should get a reading from you, or I can get a reading from you. I was going to schedule a private reading with you until I read your rules and boundaries and immediately assumed you wouldn't be willing to help me. But I thought I'd just ask you outright." Thank you so much for that, Andrea. I appreciate you messaging me. I do have rules and boundaries. There are situations and that I will not address in a tarot reading, and there are things that I just won't do for another person in a tarot reading. So Andrea, I really appreciate that. But I do want to help you. So she goes on to say, "So 2 years ago, I briefly dated a guy who swept me off my feet when I met him. We texted for weeks, day and night, and then we finally met face to face. We met on Bumble. I know, kind of pathetic, but that's where I met him." I don't think it's pathetic that you met on Bumble. So yeah, I don't think that's pathetic. So she met him on Bumble. "We only went out on 4 dates, but they were more than dates. We were either at my house or at his house. We cooked dinner together and spent 5+ hours at a time each time we were together. We did sleep together on the first date at my place and spent the whole night together the third time we saw each other. The last time we saw each other, we spent an entire day together. We talked about so many things and both said it was scary how alike we were and how intense our connection was. But 2 days later, when I texted to set up the next time we were to hang out, he didn't message me back for 24 hours. Then he said he was sick and apologized for not responding right away. He said he'd call me the next day when he felt better. Long story short, it was just cat and mouse. I ended up never seeing him again. He blocked me on social media and everywhere, and gave me no explanation as to why he ended things. I got zero closure, and to be honest, this destroyed me." Yeah, I get it. I'm so sorry. "I'll be honest, I created fake accounts on Instagram and Facebook and checked his pages several times a day to try and figure out what was going on with him, but he pretty much keeps everything private. I stalked anyone I could see who liked or commented on anything that was public on his accounts, but I still have no idea what's up with him. I admit it. I became that obsessed, stalker, crazy girl you talk about sometimes that you have felt lurking around in your Sagittarius readings from a few months ago. That's my energy. He's a Sag and I'm a Cancer with a Libra moon, and that's why I watch your channel." Oh, yes. I did a few months ago, maybe about a month or so ago, felt a lot of cross-watcher energy that I felt was pretty invasive. Andrea, I hope that the messages that you saw on my channel helped you with this Sagittarius and helped you as a Cancer with a Libra moon. I don't think you're a crazy girl, okay? I want you to stop calling yourself that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So she goes on to say, I realized that I was messed up and all the color of who I was drained out of my life. I lost touch with reality. I had no life and I just stalked him and watched tarot all night long on YouTube searching for answers. I kept the cycle up for almost a year and a half. Finally, I made a commitment to myself to let him go and accept that I'd never get closure, and also that he's an asshole and not worth my love and energy. I felt like I had finally moved on and that I learned a big lesson and passed a true spiritual test of strength. Yes, I am so sorry that you went down that dark rabbit hole. I'm so proud of you for being able to articulate that, Andrea, and notice that about yourself, and that you stopped. You saw that you had become obsessed when you said all the color drained out of me and I had no life. And watching tarot all night long got you nowhere, right? You couldn't figure out anything anymore. But I'm so proud of you for just cutting yourself off that way. Good for you. That takes a lot of strength and courage. But here's where things change. But last week, something crazy happened. I was going into a store that I never go to, and I don't even know why I went to that store to pick some stuff up. Right before I got out of the car, the clock in my car said 11:11, and when I went inside, I saw him, all caps. He was right there checking out with his stuff. I walked by and pretended I didn't see him, but I know he saw me because I saw him out of the corner of my eye that he looked at me, but he just walked out and left. Here's what I need to know. Is this a sign that I'm still being tested, or do you think seeing him was a reward or something from Spirit because I released and stopped stalking him? And because of that, now he's come back into my life as a reward. I admit that when I got home, I immediately checked his social media again, something I hadn't done in months, but I was still blocked. And even today, I'm still blocked. Why is this happening and what does it mean? On your website, it clearly states that you won't stalk anyone or an ex for a client. So I assumed you wouldn't read for me because I'll admit, I guess I kind of want you to stalk him for me. Yeah, not going to do that for you. Don't waste your money. But after this, I just want to know why I felt so compelled to stop at a store that I never go to, why I ran into him, and why I saw 11:11 literally minutes before. Do you think I need a reading about this? I really love your readings and you seem so real and genuine. I just want help. Thanks, Soma. Sorry, I don't know your real name. I just know I love you. You're a badass biatch. Love and light, Andrea. It's Carrie Lee, but I'll answer to Soma Chandra. I love you too, Andrea. You're a badass biatch too. That was really sweet. Thanks so much for sharing this with us. I have spoken to Andrea. She agreed to let me read the letter out loud to all of you with her name change. So I think she's a badass bitch too you're the badass bitch in this scenario, Andrea, not me, for being so brave. And the reason I wanted to read this letter is because, you guys, I get similar questions to Andrea's question all the time. A client will explain a scenario to me, and then they will have an experience that they believe or they think it's a possibility that Spirit's trying to tell them something, and they get confused. And here's what you don't know. I'm going to add something that Andrea didn't include in the letter. You know, the story is she spent about 20 hours roughly with this guy face to face. 4 dates, 5+ hours, maybe more, maybe about 30 hours. It all happened very quickly. And then poof, he ghosted. I messaged her back because I don't want to have to use my psychic intuition unless I really have to. I'm not here to impress people or drain myself of my own energy by using my psychic muscle. And it is a muscle and it does take work to use it. So rather than dig into my psychic abilities, I think it's just better to just ask a person outright so that I don't have to do that. So I messaged Andrea back initially and said, is there any reason, like you said, you don't know why this happened? Think, come on, you're smart. Is there any reason you can think of why he would just poof, ghost you? Here's what you don't know. This guy actually took money from Andrea. She gave him money, about $150, to buy cannabis for her. Where she lives, cannabis is not sold legally. They don't have dispensaries. It's illegal to do pot recreationally. So when you do pot, when you smoke cannabis, you don't live in a state where it's legal. You have to find a dealer under the table, and she didn't have one. So they had been smoking a lot of pot and drinking from the first date on, and he said he had a good dealer, and she gave him $150 and for pot that he was supposed to buy for her, that she said she would share with him, and she never saw him or heard from him again. So this guy was an asshole. He took her money. So you need to know that. You didn't ask me for dating advice, so I'm going to hold off on that, but I will mention some things I think you could have maybe done differently with this guy in the end. You don't have to take my advice if you don't want to, Andrea. I'm going to answer your questions directly. Why is this happening? What does it mean that you went through all this effort to stop talking, to stop stalking this guy, and then after being clear of it, you suddenly went to a store you never usually go to, saw 1111, and then you saw him? What does this mean? Okay. This is what I would call using spirituality in a way that justifies something for yourself that is otherwise not okay for you to do, and getting confused and thinking, oh, there must be a spiritual reason for it. Is spirit trying to tell me something? It does sound like this guy is a real asshole. You spent all that time together and he took your money and said he was going to make a purchase for you that's pretty difficult for you to make otherwise, and you never saw him again. Sounds, yeah. You're not a crazy girl. Okay, you just fell down a bit of a rabbit hole. I know that Libra moon makes it difficult for you to not have closure. Libras like things to be fair and honest and pretty black and white and easy to understand and balanced. And one of the things that anyone with a Libra sun or moon, or I think Mercury or Mars, if you have Libra on one of those close planets, I think one of the lessons that all Libras need to learn is that life on planet Earth is terribly unfair. That doesn't mean that it's supposed to be unfair. It just is. And it can be a struggle for anyone with Libra on that close planet to get past no closure and dishonesty and unfairness. We like to create diplomacy and harmony, but when that happens, stuff like this happens, Libra gets like a glitch in their brain and they really get hung up on it. Scorpio and Aries will get hung up on it too. Anything that's unfair or bad, like that warrior comes out. And some people just, it doesn't even matter what your zodiac sign is. Some people just struggle to let stuff go like that. And I can see that maybe the Libra moon is making it difficult for you. So I'm going to answer your question with a question here. Here's what I need to know. Is this a sign that I'm still being tested? No, I don't think you're being tested by God. That's my personal opinion. Or do you think that seeing him was a reward or something from spirit because I released him? And because I released him, my reward is him coming back into my life. No, I don't believe that for one damn hot minute, Andrea. Why would spirit reward you for breaking a toxic cycle? Why would the reward be the very person that's toxic and bad for you coming back into your life because you released him? Oh, you released this toxic negative person, or this person that was an asshole that used you for sex and drugs and stole from you. Because that is what he did, Andrea. He used you for sex. he used you for drugs, and then he stole money from you, and then he was an asshole and disappeared. That's someone that is not supposed to be in your life. Why would Spirit reward you by bringing that person back into your life? I can guarantee you that 2 years later, he's still an asshole. I'm willing to bet odds that he is. So no, I don't think that that's a reward. I think that you live in the same area. I think for whatever reason, you randomly decided to go to a store and you happened to see 11:11 on the clock. And here's the danger with all this spiritual connection that we've now placed on what we call synchronicities or unusual events. We believe that everything in our life is some mysterious divine occurrence. Let's demystify our lives a little bit, folks. Let's stay focused on what's right in front of you, Andrea. All those things I just mentioned. Ghosted, stole from you, refused to talk to you ever again. That's way more important than you happening to run into him at a store because you live in the same zip code and seeing 11:11 on the clock. Don't focus on those things. My opinion is don't focus on those things. I'm going to go out on a limb here and state a hypothesis as to my theory as to why you're focusing on these things, because you're really hoping that it is a reward. You're really hoping that 11:11 is a sign that something new was supposed to start between the two of you. And you're really hoping that I'll tell you through a reading that Spirit intentionally pushed you to go to the store. Is that possible? Yes, it's possible. Why would Spirit do that? Well, he'd probably do it more for that guy than he did for you. Because if that guy sees you and runs into you, it might have been Spirit, possibly, but I don't think so. But if that did happen, if it was a divine intervention, I think it was more for him than it was for you. To give him an opportunity to go, oh, there's that chick that I totally screwed over, that I shared my body with her and she shared her body with me, and we opened up our homes to each other, and she shared cannabis with me. She trusted me with her money, and then I ran away and I screwed her over. That this is now me running into her or seeing her is a moment for me to reflect upon what kind of a person I've been and how I've been behaving, and that that's not okay. It might have been Spirit's way of giving him an opportunity to do the right thing, which would be to give you your money back and tell you that he was sorry, apologize, and give you your money back, and nothing more. So if it was a divine intervention, my theory and opinion is it was probably more for him and not for you. Libra moons and Libra people have this way of coming into other people's lives and helping them learn lessons of consequence. We kind of get the short end of the stick for that sometimes, but it does seem to be our role here in society frequently. So if it was divine intervention and you were meant to run into him, I think, Andrea, it was more so that he was meant to run into you. That's like Spirit poking him saying, yo, you messed up. You screwed that nice girl over, and here's your opportunity. But free will is a thing. And he was either going to take that opportunity of you being there and seeing you, or he wasn't. You haven't told me how long ago this was. I'm assuming it was recently. So he either is or he is not going to say to you, hey, I saw you the other day in the store and it really bugged me out and I didn't want to deal with it or face it. But the truth is I was wrong and I'm really sorry and here's your money back. But that hasn't happened, and it didn't happen. But what I would say here is that this is something that I do run into a lot. And I think it's something that we need to think about, which is what I call insistent and defiant spirituality. Sometimes clients will say they get very defiant and they insist that they're having a spiritual experience, when actually they're just very clever and they're very good at rationalizing something in their mind and they're using something like 1111 or having a dream and then waking up and it's 333 and it happens 4 times in a row, or they hear a song and they think about the person and that person calls them, they're using these things that they think are happening to give themselves permission to keep doing something that's actually really terrible for them. And this is just separate. This is called spiritual bypassing, where we use a spiritual ideology to make something that we're doing that's bad for us okay for us to do. And all the facts and all the feelings that we're having and everything our instincts are telling us are just going, shoop. It's just all the smart stuff just goes right out of our brain. It's like just floats away, and then we just hyper focus and live in this delusion, all based on, I saw 11:11 on the clock. Give me a break. That's not what that's us being clever. And I often have clients who actually get pretty shitty with me, and they'll come to me and they'll have a very similar scenario to Andrea here that she's bravely sharing with all of us. And then I'll do the reading, and then I'll get cards that are the Queen of Cups in reverse, the Devil, and the Moon. And that card combination is pretty signature. And when that card combination comes out, I know a person is maybe struggling with self-love and codependency. They're not emotionally intelligent or being emotionally intuitive in that moment. The Devil represents an obsession, and the Moon represents a lack of clarity and cyclical emotions. And then if I get the Wheel of Fortune after that, Spirit's trying to tell you something in that reading. This is a pattern for you. This is a pattern that you play out. Also, like the High Priestess and the Devil together with the Moon. We want the High Priestess to go to the Ace of Swords and the Sun, a breakthrough and clarity. We don't want the High Priestess and the Devil and the Moon together in a tarot reading where it's like a sulky, sullen person who's obsessed. They're using intuition and even someone else's psychic intuition, like me, a tarot reader, for really unhealthy reasons. But because they have just these few little spiritual occurrences to cling to, they think, oh, it's spirit and it's all okay. It's so not okay. And then they get very defiant and they say, explain this to me. And I'll be honest with you, Andrea, I'm going to call you out a little bit, a little tough love, because you did agree to that. I do think I can hear a little bit of that tone in what you're saying here, which is, I know he's an asshole. I know he ghosted me, and I know that he stole my money, but explain to me then why I went to a store that I never went to. Explain to me then why I saw 11:11. I don't have to explain anything to you. And guess what? God doesn't either. I know that's hard to hear, but I get that a lot. Or people will say, well, I know that you're just affirming for me through the reading that I've become kind of obsessed, and you are confirming something I already know, which is he's a narcissist, or he's a liar, or he's an asshole, or he's a thief. I already know all of that. I already know I'm a little obsessed, but I find it very hard to believe that spirit isn't intervening somehow, or something important or special isn't happening, because I keep seeing 11:11 every time I think of him. Knock yourself out. You can keep doing that to yourself. It's defiant. It's insistent. It's like being childish and stomping your foot and saying, but no, 11:11 means something important. And it completely negates and cancels out the fact that he's a narcissist or a liar or a thief or a jerk or using me. And they really might, sometimes on an occasion, I have a client be really insistent with that. Good luck with that, because the more you insist that something that is just a coincidence is a spiritual act of God that gives you permission to keep hyper focusing on a person or a scenario or a relationship that you already know is bad for you, that's not healthy. And I think you know that. And I think a lot of people know that. But they really, really want me to tell them that there's some magical reason that happened. What does all this mean is what Andrea said. Why did you see 11:11 on the clock? Because 11:11 is on the clock twice a day, and humans created numbers to quantify and qualify and measure their own existence between sunrise and sunset. That's why you saw 11:11 on the clock, because that 4-number combination is a legitimate combination of numbers, Andrea. That's why. Do I think that there is something to synchronicities from time to time? Yes. Could Spirit have been trying to warn you? Yeah, the ones in the tarot are signify a new beginning. We have the aces. That's number 1 in numerology. So it is a signal of a new cycle starting. So it might have been that, or it might have just been 11:11. Why did you feel compelled to stop at a store that you typically don't go to? Because you just did. And again, you're getting yourself all wound up about something that confuses you to give you permission to stop focusing on something that's negative, that you don't want to be true, that is true, that doesn't confuse you. You're not confused about a couple of things, Andrea. You're not confused about being obsessed with him. You did become obsessed, and then you became obsessed with tarot. You articulated that. You wrote it down. You're not confused. You're very self-aware about that. I'm really impressed, and I'm really proud of you. Sometimes I work with people for a really long time before I can get them to see that the truth is right in front of them about themselves and about another person. So you're not confused about that, those truths. You did get obsessed with him and with tarot, and you're not at all confused by him being an asshole. I think that was a pretty good label, Andrea. I think a person that steals from you like that and ghosts you and then blocks you everywhere, that's literally like a con man. You're not confused about that either. These are finite, definite truths that I think anyone watching this would agree upon about that guy and agree with you about yourself. But what you're doing is you're hyper-focusing on something that's sort of mysterious to you, and and you're calling it a potential spiritual occurrence or a supernatural occurrence that was all part of God's plan, and you're using that with your very clever, intelligent brain to rationalize stalking him again and hyper-focusing on him again. And the point I'm trying to make is that is not a healthy way to use spiritual ideologies and concepts. Okay, so I want to lead you away from us sitting here debating for days on end, and for you to go in your brain round and round in circles. But why did I go to that store, and why did I see an 11:11? Those aren't the important facts. They're just important to you right now because they'll give you permission to do something that's not good for you. And I'm not going to give you permission to do that. Spirit's not going to give you permission to do that. You have personal agency, and you're very self-aware. You're aware of who he is. You're aware of who you are as a person. Don't cling to the things that confuse you to give yourself permission to move out of that awareness. That's not the purpose of spirituality. It's not to help us bypass reality and give us permission to do shit that's not good for us. Spirit wants you to use these tools that you created, that we've created, to stay grounded in our present moment and grounded in reality. And my personal opinion is, if you've had an experience like this and it's not bringing you to a state of clarity, then it wasn't a sign or a synchronicity meant for you. It just happened. You just happened to see 11:11. And I don't know. I hate to break it to everybody, but God is not a marionette up here pulling strings and getting us to do all these things. Go this way, go that way. If you look at quantum physics, you'll see that the entire universe, including Earth and human behavior as well, is largely based on chaos. Like, we don't know why we're doing half the stuff that we're doing. I mean, what's going on inside our endocrine system alone is a miracle. We don't really understand how our brains work. We're going to spend a long time, trying to unlock those secrets. there is a lot of mystery here in life, but we can proclaim the mystery of what we believe without living and dying by it, because why would we live off of and make decisions off of things that are mysterious? You don't need to decide what to do next, Andrea, based on something that's mysterious to you, like 11:11 and why you went to the store you went to. I think that you should make the decision about what to do next based on something that isn't mysterious. You have a Libra moon and you are a Cancer. So Cancer is deeply tapped into emotions. Get in touch with how you feel. You're only confused because you're hung up on this 11:11 and why the hell did I go into that store thing. But you're not confused about the facts. You know, that Libra moon should be helping you right now. No, you're not going to get the fairness and the honesty and that black and white, case closed, javel hit, you know, everything like this case is done. You're not going to get that, and you're going to have to get over that. But that Libra moon of yours can help you see the facts. Think like that. You know, we've got these lawyer brains, us Libras, like what is true and what is not? What can I prove? What can't I prove? You already have a lot of proof that this guy is kind of a jerk. And again, my theory was that if it was divine intervention, I kind of think it might have been more for him than it was for you. So the whole point of reading this letter to everyone is, this is again something I see happen a lot, where we cling to what we believe could theoretically, mysteriously, spiritually be something that happens that's meant to make us go a certain way. But if that were the case, we wouldn't have any free will and we wouldn't ever look at the facts. When you stop looking at the facts and you start clinging to things that are mysterious, you really fall prey to illusion and delusion. So I think that we should all demystify our lives and stop trying to use spiritual concepts to give ourselves to be defiant and about reality and insist that something is one way when everything in front of us is telling us it's not that way at all. Let's demystify our lives. Let's have spirituality be used in a practical way that can keep you grounded in reality and make you feel good and safe. I would let go of these details and keep in mind, Andrea, the facts, which is God would never, God's just a word. You can call spirit what you want. Spirit would never reward you by sending you a person you were obsessed with back into your life the second you let him go. Okay, so that's not happening. I think it was just a coincidence, and he hurt you and lied to you and stole from you. And those are the facts that you need to be focusing on, not the mysterious things that you're hoping mean one thing, but you and I both know really don't mean anything. Be careful with that kind of stuff, you guys. And I think it's worth mentioning here, Andrea, that I happen to know Andrea's age. She is a year and a half older than one of my children. I'm almost 50. So I have like this mom vibe with you guys. I think that it's not a good idea to go to a stranger's house and drink a lot and do drugs with them and then have sex with them when you barely know them. That's dangerous. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. That's kind of dangerous. And it certainly doesn't set up a precedent for respect. I'm assuming you were looking for a serious relationship. If you weren't, if you just wanted to party and get laid, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having casual sex and doing drugs with people if that's what you want to do. But it seemed like it really hurt you and you thought you were having a deeper connection than that. I don't think you deserved the treatment that you got at all. I do not think that you deserve that, Andrea. But if you want guys to respect you, I don't think it's a good idea to have sex with them and do drugs with them on the first date. It's dangerous, and that sets a precedent for what you're about. If you don't want men to treat you that way, don't let them treat you that way. Don't give money to people that you barely know. I know that you said, you kind of wanted to tell me, oh, they weren't just dates, they were more than dates. We spent like 5+ hours at a time together behind a closed door. You're right, that is a little different than a date. That's not slowly getting to know someone. That's just like diving right in and getting really intense right away. So I do see where you feel like you knew him better than you maybe thought you did. And clearly you gave him money because you didn't expect he would do that to you, but you didn't really know him that well, Andrea. You spent maybe 30 hours a week total with that guy. That doesn't constitute knowing a person. It takes a little bit longer to get to know someone and build trust. So one of the things she and I messaged back and forth about was, I just wonder if I missed any signs. Well, what signs? You didn't know him long enough to get to know him well enough to know whether or not you could trust him. So having emotional intelligence and having good emotional intuition comes from time spent with a person. So my unsolicited advice to you is, before you go giving a guy money, anybody money, and thinking you know them really well, take time to get to know them before you trust them in that way, because you didn't really know him. Again, I don't think that means you got what you deserved. You don't deserve that. But you have to have personal agency. Spirit's not walking around sending angels to protect us, rather than saying, why did this happen to me? Have some personal accountability. It happened because you gave money to a guy that you barely knew and you misplaced your trust. God didn't do that to you. The universe didn't do that to you. You did put yourself in that scenario. And we are meant to have personal agency and personal accountability, not wait for spirit and angels to show us synchronicities to tell us where to go. You have a compass living inside of you. You tell yourself where to go. You make your own decisions in life. I think that spirit wants us to do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here experiencing ourselves as a singularity. We'd all share a brain. We'd be able to sit down and talk with angels and our guides and spirit itself with ease. We're separated through a time-space continuum barrier so that we have the opportunity to experience ourselves as a singularity, as a single individual being that's capable of listening to their own instincts, their own intuition, and making decisions for themselves. Spirit does want you to make decisions for yourselves most of the time. It doesn't want to guide us 24/7 with all these signs and synchronicities. You're capable of doing that and listening to the signs within more so than exterior signs. Yeah, that's my belief. All right, Andrea, so thanks for writing me this letter. That was my 2 cents. That's my personal opinion, something I hear a lot. I am going to continue to do this. If you feel like you have a topic you'd like to discuss openly and you'd like me to read a letter, the link to my website's down in the description below. I get a lot of letters, so we can start doing this on the regular, you guys. I will change your name. I will protect your privacy. Please know that I will not privately directly respond. If you send me a letter, I'm going to ask you, do you mind if I do this? And we read it out loud and we discuss it on YouTube so that we can share knowledge for the purpose of personal awareness, and we can start to bridge this pretty big gap between spirituality and reality. Let's make it more practical. Let's make it more useful. Let's use these ideas and principles and concepts for healthy reasons, not to separate us from reality and give us permission to do things that just aren't good for us. That's not what I'm about. And I want to help people do the opposite of that. Okay, thanks for being here with me, you guys. I'm off to do private readings. I love you guys. I'm always listening to the universe for you, and I'll see you next time.